Shit. It's legit. Hey. Entertainment is here. Coming from the streets. No deal. It's the Looney Show. We always keep it real.
Hey guys, it is Crazy K. So, for this episode, I thought it was quite interesting. I ran into a comment that I would like to go ahead and read and have this discussion based off this comment. Now, this comment is from Miss Kenby on Instagram. And she writes, point is, this generation and many before don't know oppression. We placing past trauma on ourselves while ignoring our current reality. I know it's a lot to unpack. So basically, she was sitting there saying that our generation, millennium, Gen Z, Gen Xers, don't know oppression. That we know oppression based off of our past traumas that have been passed down and that has been taught to us. We haven't really experienced oppression. And I thought that was really quite interesting because I know everybody is brought up in different backgrounds and different environments, so they experience different things. But I'm like, well, all my life I have experienced that. So I just thought it was very interesting that some minorities don't experience oppression. And then I just had to go ahead and break that down and why. Why some may be oppressed more than others. What environments are they in that they're more oppressed or receive racism? And that's the discussion for today. I think I always like to start from the beginning. Because for some reason, people just think that after slaves were free, that all of a sudden, all the slave masters just left the United States and went somewhere else. And I think that's very important for us to understand, to start from the beginning, that slavery was not a choice for them to end. They didn't want to end slavery. So with that in mind, that they were forced to end a practice that they really admired and they really liked, lets you know that, okay, there was some kind of pushback there. I say to all those individuals who were forced to end slavery and let their slaves go, what happened to those individuals? Did they say, there's no longer slavery in America, I'm just going to move to Europe? How about let's try Australia? And I think we need to understand that those individuals never left the United States. So we still have those individuals here on the continent that disagreed with ending slavery. So these individuals that are biased against ending slavery are still here in the United States, are still raising families, and still have positions of power. And I think that's very important for us to understand that racism did not leave. Those individuals hold positions of power. Those individuals are doctors. Those individuals are teachers. These individuals are ahead of our judicial systems. And if you have a certain bias, like people say when we vote Democrat or Republican for our best interests. So if these individuals already have this certain kind of bias and they're still here in the United States, they're going to make sure that they vote for their best interest. And that's to uphold segregation and those things of that nature. So I think that's very important to understand that those individuals still had the power to vote for their best interest and still be able to practice their biases in the United States. With that being said, that these individuals have the right to vote. So they're going to have votes that want to upload segregation. They're going to vote for certain borders and zoning laws that benefit them. These individuals will vote for their best interest and against minority interests. And at a time, we weren't allowed to vote. So that means that these individuals, even though there's no slavery, but they still have the option to go ahead and vote. So that means that they want to go ahead and put these systems back in place. They're still constantly trying to put these systems back in place, which we're witnessing now in 2026, that those individuals and their frame of thinking has not left, and they're still trying to put these systems back in place. Make America great again, want to put these systems back in place. So I thought it was quite interesting that, we seem to believe that there's no racism here in the United States, and the fact that we're still not being oppressed. Now let's look at the history of how we were oppressed. These certain systems and things that they set in place to basically not give us rights or power because they didn't want to, but now we are free. And I think the first was, everybody thinks integration and us not being segregated anymore were for the benefits of black people. I don't believe so. I believe that during the Deep Depression, being though that African Americans did not have access to banks, loans, any type of capital, all our money was funded into our community. And we were able to use our funds, trade, and build within the African American community. And I think they, across the bridge, seen how we were growing amongst their poverty, and they did not like it. They did not understand. How could these survive when we're all struggling, barely struggling? Because we did not have our money in banks. We did not have our money into those systems. They did not take our funds. So when it crashed, the African American community was still able to strive. And that's the beginning of them burning down towns, flooding over our major cities, burning down Black Wall Street. That is the start of us being able to get ahead and prosper without the help of our government, and they did not like it. And they went ahead and all those thriving towns and cities, they burned down. So that was the first step. And I believe that's the reason why they wanted integration. Because they were seeing how we were thriving. They were not. We need to integrate into their system. Take what they deem. You want to go to that grocery store? No, we want your black dollars because we don't have dollars. We need your black dollars. So if I eliminate your black grocery store and make you go to my grocery store, now I have your money. And I think that was the start of integration. With that being said, is I am going to integrate you, but there's restrictions, as we know, that you can be here, but there's certain restrictions. So now you're integrated into our schools, which they did not want. We had to fight to be integrated into their schools. I thought you wanted to end segregation. It was certain places where we were allowed to be, where we were accepted to be. Okay, this is your place. And when you stepped out of line, there was a problem. And I think that's how initially racism within the United States started to begin to form. Because I believe as long as we remained and practiced the stereotypes, they were fine with it. Whenever we stepped out of line is when they had a problem. This is being said, the reason why I'm breaking it down this way, because I stated in the beginning, there's different types of oppression. And what I'm seeing now is I'm not seeing the oppression, everyday black African American oppression, because I feel like as long as you stick to the stereotypes, as long as you're continuing to go in and out of jail, as long as you're a thug or a YN, as long as you're a baby mama, as long as you're, as they perceive, on welfare, uneducated, they're fine with that. I believe that the people who are now experiencing any form of oppression or racism is those who are stepping outside of the box. And what I mean by that is, I grew up in an all-white neighborhood. I believe at 5 years old, called darky, blackie, dark tar. And I believe that when I speak to individuals about that, they like, oh my God, you experienced that? And I didn't have to go through that. I believe it's because of the environment that I grew up in. I grew up in a predominantly white middle class neighborhood. We were the first black family on the block. So with that being said, we were out of the norm. They did not want us there. They did not deserve to be there. And they couldn't understand how a simple warehouse manager and a power line cutter had a house in their neighborhood. And they showed. They made me know every day that I did not belong. And I think that's the first part. When we're outside of their comfort zone. Go on to in the military. A woman in the military. Now, you know, hey, we're doing great. Times have changed. But women in the military weren't always seemed as fit for duty. And we have questions. Well, what about her administration and things of that nature was always questioned. So I always found myself having to prove myself in my position to fit a role that they said that I couldn't do. So that was a form of discrimination. Down to college and my profession, which is tech support. Mostly it is predominantly white men that is in the tech industry. We as African American, and especially the women, I am so proud of us, we are starting to get more into this profession. But those who are currently in there understand that because it's predominantly white men, that you are constantly harassed. I tend to work late shifts, overnight, or telework, so I won't have to be harassed by my coworkers. It's best that they know a name and not a face. Because if they see that I'm a black woman, then constantly when I submit my reports will be analyzed, observed, and my data will constantly be questioned. And it's a problem. And even just going into the office and then someone just seeing me in that position, going into that area, what is that black girl doing over there? Constant harassment. Constantly have to explain myself, why I'm here, my job, and constantly on an everyday basis prove that I deserve to be here and I can perform the job and the duties. And I think that is because I'm in a place where they deem I shouldn't be. How did she get this job? Why does she have this job? We have a lot of marks that can do this job. Why do we need Crazy K? And I think when you're in certain professions, certain areas around them, and you're outside of their comfort zone, is when you'll start to, in 2026, feel oppression. I do believe that as long as you stick with the stereotype, what they think you are, they'll get along fine with you. I have been to certain restaurants or bars and I'm just sitting at the bar and I'm chilling. And if I start to spark up a conversation or someone sparks up a conversation with me, curious of why I'm at that bar, number one, they're only trying to figure out what I'm doing here in this space. So, sparks up a conversation with me. And if this conversation turns into an intelligent conversation, you'll get about 4 sittings out of them and they'll no longer want to talk. But if this conversation starts off, yeah, girl, I'm over here just trying to get a drink and all, you know what I mean? They'll continue to entertain that ignorance. And I have noticed that. I have tested the theory out. Because they're fine with me acting ghetto, because that's how they perceive me to be. But once I'm holding an intelligent conversation with them, no longer interested, then you'll start to see the discomfort in their faces. And I think it's very important that if we're in certain spaces. I have a story for you. While I was going to school for tech support, I also have a paralegal studies certificate. Anybody? Because I actually wanted to be a lawyer first prior to going into tech care. And I used to have to go to the courthouse to file claims. Now, going into the courthouse, I'm not going to see the judge. I'm not going to hearings. I'm just filing claims. Paying and filing claims. I basically, I'm not dressed inappropriate, but I just have some jeans and a t-shirt. I'm running to different courtrooms to file claims as a paralegal. So, of course, I'm not dressed up, but it shouldn't matter. I have my paralegal badge. Now, I'm going through the courthouse the same as I do every day, the same courthouses. They have seen me. They know me. You have to go through the metal detectors. You have to take all your things off. They have separate detectors for court reporters, paralegals, lawyers, than the general public. The lawyers and the court reporters and the paralegal line is normally always the shortest. So I commits to walk to the paralegal line so I can go ahead and file my claims. And there's this white lady that gets in front of me that goes through the line. Now, mind you, she's wearing jeans, a regular sweatshirt, the same type of attire. And she goes through the paralegal, lawyer, court-appointed judge's line. I'm right behind her. The guard goes to look at me, and he says, this is a line for paralegal, judges, this, that, and the third. I said, I'm a paralegal. I said, I have my ID. I show him my ID and give him all my information. The white lady then turns at me and she says, oh, this is the line for paralegals? She said, oh, I'm not that, and walks out the line. They never asked to see her identification. They just automatically assumed because she was white and in that line, she was supposed to be there. You didn't stop me to ask for my verification, to verify if I was supposed to be there, and you did not. Which I was supposed to be there. She was not. And this is this type of passive aggression, oppression that you experience when you are in environments where they don't deem that you should be. She should have been carded too. You literally just let someone walk through the line that did not have the credentials. Mind you, I told you I'm at this courthouse every day. So when you see this black woman every day going through this line, you know. And I just thought that was quite strange. I'm like, here she was through the metal detectors. And I was being stopped and had to show my ID. And I'm like, this is constantly what I experience a lot. I also remember when I was in Georgia and I went to the chief's office to bring a case. And when I went up to initially sign in to let them know that I was there, I gave them my name. I said, I'm here to deliver. The representative was like, okay. And I just thought that was weird. So I was like, okay. And then, she was like, sit down. And that's exactly what she said to me, sit down. I sat down. And then about like 5 minutes, I have the chief of police coming up to me talking about, well, you shouldn't have gave my representative an attitude. You're here to do that. And I'm like, I just dropped off the papers. What are you talking about? I gave her my information. I said, here, this is what I'm here to do. Pull me in the back and everything. And the whole time this is my first time being down south because I'm from up north. So I did not understand what was going on until later. I had to think it out. But, I'm confused. I'm like, this is my first time down south. I thought maybe it was my accent, my up north accent. Maybe they took that as being aggressive. I didn't know. But going into the Georgia courtrooms, I had to experience that a lot. I started to see. I said, okay, because I noticed one thing in Georgia. Georgia, you have a lot of police officers. You may have the sheriffs. They are all black. But when you go into that courtroom, those judges, a lot of those lawyers, they are white. They'll let you police your own people. But when it comes to making the decisions, it's them that sits ahead of the seat. And when you want to place at that seat, you'll feel oppression. So now I ask you, when you say, do racism still exist? Or are you still oppressed? Look at where you're at in life. Look at your proximity to whiteness and their professions. And then ask yourself,